So Bitcoin broke below 90K yesterday, and many are calling for it to continue lower and for more crypto punishment ahead. Well, today let's look at price action and see what the charts are suggesting, because it's been a long, brutal crypto winter. And is crypto spring in sight or just a lot more pain? Welcome to the Crypto Rain channel in our family. Now, probably you're here because at some point in your life you worried about money and you didn't want to have to worry about money all your life. And so you wanted to use your money well so that it could grow your net worth for you. Isn't that why Wild came in crypto? Now, what if you learned to use that money just right so it did work for you so well that you didn't have to worry about money again? Personally, I grew up poor in life and I had secondhand clothes that my mom bought at garage sales. I ate bologna sandwiches pretty much every day for lunch. And it isn't bad to grow up that way, but I realized the true value of money is that it allows us options in life. So maybe you can have like a ham sandwich and a salad once in a while. But also, in addition to the options in life, it can decrease that gnawing worry we carry of how do we meet all those financial obligations, perhaps afford the nicer things we want too, the travel we want. Now, after a few months of being in crypto, when I started 8 years ago, I recognized that crypto investment done right had the most amazing, massive potential to allow us to get to that place where we don't have to worry about money again. Now, after 8 years of being crypto, I know that crypto can and will change your finances and your life, but there's this massive catch. Crypto investment works amazingly well towards your goal when you take the right actions. While being in crypto, I learned something very troubling. You see, I know people that have been here longer than I have, and they are still stuck where they were when they started, just barely getting by. I learned that 95% of people in crypto don't make meaningful money or flat out lose money. And it's only 5% of crypto investors that make life-changing gains that take them into the lifestyle we all dreamed about as kids. Now, haven't we learned in life that if you find what the successful people are doing and copy exactly how they do things, you start having their results? So I focused on figuring out what those 5% did and put that into practice myself. And I found by 2021, using those principles, I was able to fire my day job, move to the city I wanted, and put myself in position to never have to work again if I didn't want to. And here on this channel is where I share what I've learned. I share my research on the companies I like for this cycle and why I like them and what is interesting to me at what prices. And today is our price analysis day. This is a day where we combine what I've learned with our special guest, Paul, joining us from DEVVE. Now, Paul has 30 years price analysis experience analyzing charts, and it is a fun time to be looking together at the price movements of what is happening to see what might be cheap, what might be really cheap, and what might be expensive, what might be about to explode. Note, if you are looking to be part of that 5% that make life-changing gains, join the Patreon in the link below that will give you access to our Rainmaker private Discord. And the Rainmaker private Discord allows you to surround yourself with people who have learned and are learning to do things the right way. And that's exactly how you get good at this, is surrounding yourself by people like that. Well, probably already made it rain on that like button. If not, go ahead and do that and help me welcome Paul from DEVVE to the show.
Great to be here. Interesting times, as they say. It's only January and we're seeing a lot of volatility, nearly the end. I mean, month almost since Christmas. Doesn't time just fly by?
It goes by so fast and like so slow day to day, but it really, I mean, we're 3 weeks into the new year already, and it was barely New Year. So it is flying by. The world hasn't melted down, even though, doesn't it feel like the last 3 weeks have been action packed with world news? The Venezuela thing, and then Iran, and then, oh my gosh, is Trump going to storm Greenland? And it's been crazy this year. Federal Reserve chairman being investigated for lying to Congress, and like it's on top of, and I think some of that has created some of the volatility in the markets. that is like Trump moves so fast in so many different directions. It just worries the markets.
Yeah, that's for sure. I mean, worry in terms of the equity markets is it's not really done a whole lot. I think the main worry that Trump is causing right now, and why he's possibly reined back again on what he's saying, or perhaps it's a strategy, I'm not sure, is bond yields have started to go up. You're playing a dangerous game with investors, especially if you're kind of bullying your not even your enemies, your friends in this case. With Europe and with the UK especially, there's a good relationship, and it seems that the risk that you've got there is, whilst of course the US is the biggest market and has got all the nukes, as it were, and all the power, when it comes to the financial markets, you can destabilize them if you're not careful. And this is an issue that might start to hit the dollar, given that Trump wants the dollar to go lower. He may start sending it lower, as well as US bonds, where the yields might start to rise. Now, I don't think we're in that quite that situation here, but I think that's the fear that these moves are generating. And it might just be his strategy of keeping everyone guessing, because you just don't know what he's going to do next, which is an interesting strategy to deploy. But ultimately, behind it all is a desire to get resources, as you see in Venezuela and Greenland is all about resources. And we've seen resources in terms of precious metals rising and base metals rising, which is something we've covered quite extensively here. But it's just a question of whether that will feed into other problems, or which way the market will go. It's difficult to say. Now, with the overall equity markets, they're still basically looking bullish, and so I think that the desire for lower rates is going to follow through, and the dollar seems to be going down again, so it's lurched a bit lower, and that should be positive, certainly in the short term, for anything that's non-dollar denominated, like once again gold and silver. So it should have a positive impact on Bitcoin. Quite how far it goes, I'm not sure, but certainly in the short term, the majors could get a boost from a weaker dollar, and I'd expect that to be a theme that extends out over the course of this year. But to be fair, we are seeing some very aggressive corrections, and the market has got to show us from a technical point of view where the buyer's coming in and where that's going to be held. So we should wait and see. But certainly the fear and the interest in cryptos definitely waned. And that's, I think, a good sign for a rally, because you'd normally see the opposite. A lot of euphoria and people expecting the prices to go higher and higher and calling for ever higher numbers. And we've just not seen that. So the fear that we've seen at the start of the year might be a lead into perhaps a nice upward trend. But we'll have to, as always, let the markets tell us what it wants to do.
Yeah. Boy, it's been a long bear market, and Bitcoin is up, and a few of the other altcoins, some of the larger cap ones, particularly XRP and some of the ISO coins, are ahead. Solana's ahead, BNB's ahead from where the bear market lows were, but most things are way down still. And I feeling with my fingers on the pulse of sentiment, a lot of people are just getting worried. I've seen more videos lately on people saying there's not going to be any altcoin rally, and just, it's Bitcoin and just a few other ones. Essentially, the ones that are up is what they think is going to survive. I mean, these are people with YouTube channels talking about crypto, but are relatively new to investments themselves. And so I've seen a lot of that lately, which is a good indicator for me, because I saw a lot of that in 2021, that there wouldn't be an altcoin rally, and yet there was. Like I was sharing yesterday in a video that we did, is my mentor was talking about how 95% of people really don't make meaningful wealth or do the right things. And He said an oversimplified version of how to become rich yourself is find out what the 95% of people are doing and do the opposite. So when I see so many videos saying no altcoin rally, or even especially when I see videos like crypto is dead, Bitcoin is dead, those kind of things get me excited. And the more I see that, the more heartened I am.
Yeah, I think that's a fair enough assessment. Being contrarian is usually the right place to be, and it certainly feels like a lot of towels have been thrown in, and sentiment does not kind of justify further. It doesn't justify being as bearish on the markets, but there's two sides to that for me. One is the sentiment, and the other is the price, and the price has to be in inverse to the sentiment. So, when Bitcoin based out after the FTX scandal, what we were seeing was a lot of negative sentiment, but the price action was starting to move up. So, if we have got what is negative sentiment in the altcoin market, and I agree that it does feel like that, and why wouldn't it? Also, given that the markets have dropped, it will be a perfect time for it to start to rally now, and for the markets to and the sentiment to stay negative despite the rally. And then that would say to me that things are going to continue further. So hopefully we're seeing a basing period. It might take a bit longer to do that, but it would be great from a sentiment point of view as well as from an actual point of view if that's what we're seeing here. And the final kind of party at the end of the trend isn't one that's happened. We saw a big move in Bitcoin. We've had all the other risk on assets going up. Seems unusual that altcoins wouldn't be part of that, or at least there'd be more activity in them. So, as I've said before, it's not impossible that the end of the market can be without this move. So it's not, nothing is set in stone. It's just these are things that usually happen and probabilities. So I'm leaving the door open for that because I think it's a fair enough thing to do.
Yeah, we are live. Chris here. Good morning, Rainmakers. Hope you're all well today. Happy Wednesday, Paul and Jay. Thanks for coming on.
Hey, Chris.
The one says, great time to buy more DEVVE. Oh my goodness. Yes. So the prices come right back down right near the bottom of bear market lows. And it's an extremely juicy price at a market cap that's unbelievable. We're going to cover one of their competitors today. Maybe we'll then include DEVVE in it. HBAR is one of their competitors. His price is also at a steal, in my opinion. And we'll look at the charts for that. I'll share why I think it's such a good buy. And yeah, Paul, why don't you share us what other markets are doing outside of crypto that might be fascinating for us to see where money is flowing to and what's going on in the world.
Sure. So looking at the main markets again, we've got the Dow Jones Industrial Average still in an upward trend. It's interesting how many times it did actually try and break this 49,620 level, not quite get to 50,000, but it came off it. And it's not surprising given how big that number is, but the trend is still up and we haven't seen a reversal pattern yet. We may do, but it hasn't triggered. So the markets are still broadly pushing higher. We've got the S&P, the NASDAQ in a consolidation. If this tips a little further to the downside, then I would be concerned that this is forming a top and we'll get an extended correction. We're still in the middle of it, but I'm watching it carefully. Let me show you what I mean. Like Apple has corrected quite aggressively, quite hard. Netflix has aggressively corrected as well. So are we looking at this point in the NASDAQ and we're going to see a big correction? Possibly. But for the moment, the trend is still up. So I'm leaving the door open for a continued upward trend. And as part of that, the dollar index is weakening. It's still in this downward trend. It's still in this consolidation short term, where given all the risk profile of everything that's been going on around the world with Venezuela, as you mentioned at the top of the show, and all the other things that have been happening, possible war, the Iranian situation, the Israel situation. There's so many reasons why you'd want to be buying A, oil, and B, the US dollar as a fair trade, and it really hasn't moved that much. So it looks very much more like the trend is going to be down. And when that starts to move, it would be unusual but not impossible for the for Bitcoin. At least it'll be a tailwind towards Bitcoin and other risk-on assets moving up. What we have seen is, of course, gold and silver continuing to move higher. I think there's a lot of people who are just trying to short these markets, and that's partly why they're going up. But you know, silver's getting very close to a massive psychological resistance at 100. And whilst I think you can't stand in front of these trends, it's also, if you hadn't bought them, you're pretty late to the party if you're only just deciding to go long now. So I still think the trend is up and I'm going with the trend, but with one eye kind of on the door as to when to get out. And you know, platinum and palladium have also been doing well. This is broad and across the board. And we've seen this play happening, and the dollar hasn't really moved that much. So I think after a consolidation, when the dollar goes down, I expect another big move in risk on assets. So, you know, as I mentioned, it'd be unusual for Bitcoin not to be part of that. And if it isn't part of it, then it will be telling me something. But for the moment, the trend, the broader trend, the long-term trend, if we take the kind of weekly chart of Bitcoin, it's still to the upside. The momentum has definitely come off recently. And we've got this sharp consolidation. We got a breakout to the upside last week, which was good, but again, it turned around and we're back into this range. So we're just waiting for the market to tell us what it wants to do here. But it's sitting right in the middle of the range. And I'm here, I just want to see where it breaks out from, whether it can get out from, you know, through resistance, which is what I suspect it will do as the dollar goes down. Or if it takes this series of lows out, starts to play towards the 84 area, then I get slightly concerned that we're going to get another correction, perhaps a retest of this really amazing support. Now, I'd like to see this gap in price hold, because that would be much more conducive to another attempt at these prior highs. So we're in a consolidation, and we just got to wait to see what the market wants to do here. With regard to ETH, its short-term pattern is looking a little bit triangular, which I don't like to see. What that means is the market's gone down and it's compressing, and that usually means the market's going to keep going down or continue in the prior direction. But this has been a interim trend as opposed to part of a bigger trend. So again, I've just got to wait to see which part of this consolidation pattern gets broken out. If you take a step back, it still looks very feasible that we could be breaking back above this resistance here at 34.81 and heading back towards the 49 area and perhaps into new all-time highs. And if there is a kind of run on, right, people who are buying gold and silver are buying it out of fear, partly fear of the financial system, partly fear about war. So they're getting out of fiat. And why Bitcoin and ETH, at least as the majors, why they wouldn't be part of that seems unusual. But we're talking about products that haven't been around as long as gold and silver. So, you know, it will be interesting to see if the crisis intensifies, if things do start to get more heated between the US and China and other nations, whether they're going to start using these major you know, assets as a hedge against the system, against the, you know, potential war. And with war can come capital controls, and with capital controls, it's hard to move money around. So it might be a use case, but all the best ideas in the world from a technical point of view aren't worth anything unless the market price kind of justifies it or at least confirms it. So what I need to see is that the market is starting to continue in this upward vein. But, you know, a lot of people said ETH was over back down here. I mean, they've said it a couple of times down here and it rallied, and down here again. if you take a step back again, you see these are higher lows, even if it does come back to 2.5 or 2.3. So there's still potential for this to be rising lows. And if you look at how gold and silver broke out, it did take a long while before that happened. They were chewing ranges for a long time. Nobody was really interested in that period, and then they exploded into new trends. So hopefully we've got that ahead, but I'll let the market tell us.
Yeah, remember when Chris was calling 100x long on silver?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, we did joke about it, didn't we, with copper, and
oh yeah, it's copper.
Yeah, it was with copper, but I was always bullish on silver and gold as the trends were going up. But you just see that most people ignore it, and now it's really hitting the headlines. They start to short it, and then everyone will jump on board. But it seems like when the world scenario is going back to your contrary opinion theory conversation at the start, when the world looks justified to take the position, when it's obvious, as the phrase goes, it's obviously wrong. And it's becoming more and more obvious that that's what you would buy because of the way the world looks. And that means that we've got to be a bit more cautious stepping forward, because the fundamentals are now backing up where the charts have been going. So we shall see. We shall see. But the trends are still up. And I'm a pure chartist at heart. So I kind of try to put everything to one side and just look at what the chart is telling me. But it's also nice to think about ideas as to why the market might be driven in a certain way. But sentiment is definitely an important part of all trading, and knowing a bit about where the sentiment is and when it's getting too hot is very valuable. As something that I think every trader or analyst should be looking at, despite using different techniques.
So Chris followed up and said, do you think precious metals will all move together because their moves are narrative based, or do you think one will continue upwards while the others dive?
So that last part of that is, I would love to play the GSR. What's the GSR?
Oh, I don't know what the GSR is.
Gold silver rally, maybe. Yeah, perhaps just guessing that. Do you think precious metals will all move together? They have all moved together.
Gold silver ratio.
Oh, so ratio, right? Okay. Do you think they will all continue upwards while others dive? No, I don't think that. I think they were leading. I think gold was leading the way, and the gold silver ratio got well out of whack, and silver was overlooked, because there are people out there who look at gold as money. They say gold is money. We want gold. Everything else is dangerous because it's not money. It's fiat, which means it's created by governments who may not be doing the right things. So they want gold, but they don't necessarily look at silver. They see silver as an industrial metal that has other uses. So they don't look at it from that point of view. But silver is a very important asset because, first of all, if the dollar's going to go down, silver will go up. Secondly, if you look at silver as a metal, it is, first of all, the best conductor of electricity, and we're looking at AI centers and important things like that might need it. It's got kind of antibacterial uses as well, which is quite incredible. And there's also a finite amount of it, possibly more than gold, but there's still it's still a precious metal. Then you go to platinum and palladium, which weren't moving at all until I pointed out that they hadn't moved at all, and then they exploded in price. So now you've got everything moving together. Silver's catching up on gold because it was so overlooked, and it's like ETH and Bitcoin. Bitcoin went up a lot, and then ETH didn't do a lot, and then suddenly ETH played catch up because it's like, well, I can't buy gold, it's too high, so we look at something that's cheaper. So with everything going together, that tells me that we're in terms of the way I look at things. We talked about Wyckoff last week, didn't we? But I was saying I look at things in a Dow point of view, Dow theory point of view, which is Dow theory says that you have a proper bull market when everything is moving together. And so I've been looking for all precious metals to move together, which is exactly what they're doing now. Now, once they start all moving together, I think you'll see the weakest ones getting picked off at the end of the trend. So I don't know which one that will be or how it will be, but it would be very unusual once everyone is suddenly becoming vested interest in these precious metals that one would lead the way down and all the others would just keep going up, or vice versa. So what I'm saying is they're probably going to trade together in the same way that base metals are now all starting to move together. You know, copper's at an all-time high, but all the other ones are moving in the same synchronization. And so what we'll see then at the end of this trend, which could be, you know, a couple of years away, we'll see either massive technical tops in something. It might be silver, it might be gold, I don't know. And then that ratio will come back again. But in terms of, is there more in the trend? I think absolutely. But is it a time to be putting a full position on right now? I'm not sure. I don't think so, because it's just being late to the party. Now, would I short it? Absolutely not. So I think it's a question of just running current positions, or maybe even lightening up a little bit, and then looking at a decent pullback as a chance to get in for the next move. So
those trends are amazing. Can we look at gold? Can you pull gold or silver back up and just watch this parabolic move? For those that have forgotten what parabolic moves look like, this is it. And so this is where everyone starts, the general population starts getting really interested, and they buy in. They see that kind of move and they're like, it's going to go up for forever. And it doesn't. And maybe it trades sideways, it consolidates for a little bit and then can continue, because it's so steep right now. This pace is just, at some point it's got to pull back. I mean, that pace is incredible.
The thing with silver is it only just broke the all-time high, you know, towards the end of last year, but gold had broken its all-time high much longer ago. So that's why you're seeing more of a catch up with silver. This was a major level, and this whole area here, you can look up in history. It was the Bunker Hunt was the name of I think the brothers who tried to corner the silver market, and they caused this squeeze. So you can read up about that. That was a very famous move, and you see how it got matched towards the end of the last global financial crisis, 2007, 2008. It carried on rallying until 2011, and then we got a massive correction, but it's still within this major upward trend. And of course, this move here is parabolic and explosive, which is why, you know, I can't say where it's going to stop. I don't know. You know, it could be 100, it could be 150. Who knows? I'm not going to say. That's not what technicals is about. It's about looking at the signs. And each kind of monthly chart each month has been bullish for what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months. So it's been going up for 9 months straight. Will it be a 10th month? We'll see. But again, it's like the breakout was here at 35. That's for me a good entry point, and then a break of this prior high at 50. But up here, you really are chasing it, but that doesn't mean it won't go higher.
Yeah. So I call it chasing green candles. It's a risky time to buy silver right now, because it's like it's already experienced some of its gains. It's due to pull back some point, and it might not pull back till 200. It might pull back at 120. It might pull back at 97. I don't know. But that's why I don't chase green candles. I look for points of entry prior, because, you know, when I did real estate investment for years and years and years, they had an old saying, which is you make your money on the buy. So if you buy too high from the get-go, like, your risk is way high and your profit potential is way low. But that is where most people buy, is when they see these massive green candles. They think those green candles behind them gives them safety because of recency bias, and it doesn't. All right. What else do you want to look at? Any other markets, bond markets?
Yeah, we can look at the bond markets. Basically, the 10-year. This is what's been happening. Let me go back to a daily chart. So the daily chart. This is what's or if it's not worrying Trump, it should be the fact that US yields have just jumped, and cost of US borrowing 10 years is very important to the economy. Now, it doesn't look like it's broken a major high, but it's going in the wrong direction, I think, for Trump and for mortgages. So we don't want to see that go too much higher, and it probably will come back down as tensions start to release. But it is going up, and international investors are basically saying two things. One, we'll start selling your assets if you bully us. B, we'll do that if the dollar goes down too fast. It hasn't yet, but that's a possibility. And C, with the way asset prices, base and precious metal prices are moving up, that could well be inflationary. So I think bondholders are going to get a little bit jittery, and this is to be expected. But it's not got out of order yet. The market is orderly, but it's moved aggressively in the wrong direction. It's a bit of a kind of tap on the shoulder, I think, for Trump, rather than anything more aggressive. But if it starts to accelerate towards these levels, I think there's going to be a few people who are going to be a bit worried about how fast and how far it's going to move from there, because there's a debt to pay. There's a big deficit to pay, a lot of bonds to sell, and that would be moving in the wrong direction for the economy.
Yeah, well, let's dive into crypto prices, and let's get moving that way.
Sure.
I will do a little research as we're looking at things. Buchanan, see if we want to add Rivercoin in there. And so why don't we jump on the first one?
Sure. Yeah. I'd also say, I think next Wednesday there's going to be a rate decision. So I think that might create a bit of interest as to politically whether rates are going to go down. The market doesn't look like it's ready to call for a drop in interest rates, but that story will come back on the table when geopolitics has eased a bit. But for the moment, I think no change. But that doesn't mean the market won't react to it. Sometimes no change can see the biggest reaction. So it's something to look out for between now and then. But yeah, so did you say Solana was it the next one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Solana is in this big look from here all the way over here, March 24, coming up to about a year, 2 years now. Gosh, isn't it time? As we say, it just goes so fast. It's still in this range. So we've got to see some form of long-term breakout. The trend is still up. The short-term trend has been down and in this consolidation. We know where the good support is. The good support is around 117. It stopped there a few times. It managed to get a little bit lower towards 95. So breaking that 100 was enough to get some buyers in and to push it back up again. This could be forming an interesting inverse head and shoulders pattern. So we got this is the left shoulder, this is the head, this is possibly the right shoulder. It's kind of playing out what might be the pattern. So that would be the kind of breakout point, and we'd have to see it stop around here and then head back up for it to complete or to get ready to complete the pattern. Now, that doesn't guarantee that it's going to do it. It just means that I can see quite a nice pattern here. And if it gets back up to these levels here around 146, then it's a short-term technical buy, looking for maybe a move back up to 175, 180. And we'll see what it does when it gets there, because the size of the pattern is the projection for rule of thumb, how far it might go. So I want to see how it plays around here. For the moment, it'd have to be a wait, because I want to see it react to these lows. It would have to be, it'd have to hold into these previous support points. And obviously, if it gets too close to this 117, the risk of it going through goes up, and it kind of negates that pattern. So we wouldn't want that to happen. It wouldn't fit within the symmetry of the pattern or how it's traded from a technical point of view. So for the moment, it's a wait, but it's holding in a range, and getting close to what I think should be a rally.
Solana is an interesting one. I have held some Solana at times, but not a lot of it. An amazing time to buy Solana was when it came all the way down, and it doesn't show it here, but it came all the way down to $7 in December of 2022. And, it blasted off when meme coins were getting traded tremendously, and everyone was talking about Solana. So it's reached, even during the bear market, price of $250. Right now, it's trading at about half that, which, for those that like Solana, I mean, one of the principles is buy low and sell high. And Solana's probably, well, it's much cheaper than it was by 50% off from what it's done so far in the bear market. Now, how much higher will this go? Probably a lot higher than it is now. Maybe it'll 10x from here. I don't know. It's got a $71 billion market cap. The reason why I've had a hard time buying Solana is just all the chain failures as a chain is concerning to me, that they don't have that figured out. It has a lot of really rich crypto backing people that are highly invested in Solana. Like venture capitalists, like Anthony Scaramucci talks about it, like, oh, Solana. And it's like, is it fast enough? Is it scalable enough to work? Those are my concerns over some of the competitors. Now, interestingly enough, Stewie, one of their competitors that has faster speeds and other things, it also suffered a chain failure just recently. So I guess Solana is not the only one going through those kind of problems. There's that. Not just personally, I've had a harder time with Solana versus some of its competitors because of all the chain failures it's had. It gives me pause. Now, overall, I'm not buying high market cap coins, and if I was, would I be buying Solana? It's just not one of my ones that I guess I have a hard time understanding why this is going to be so successful, other than hearing the large VCs that are heavily invested in this saying it's the future and everyone's building on it. I guess I haven't found an objective person or someone I feel objective enough that makes the case for Solana is going to be really, really big. I just think other things might outperform it. So a lot of people disagree with me on that, and Solana is their thing. And in that case, like, Solana is at a good buy price if you like Solana. It scaled back 50%, and that was just price it hit during the bear market. So in an altcoin rally, I think Solana goes a lot higher than this. So in that case, it would be a buy. Next on the list, let's take a look at HBAR.
Yeah, HBAR. So yeah, HBAR. Again, I can't really justify anything other than a wait and possibly a sell now, because it's near its prior low and the trend is down, or has been down. We got a short rally from here, from a double bottom, which is then negated. It was just a small pattern anyway, and there was a lot of work to do to get it out of this downward spiral. So if we take this short-term line, for example, as the first step to entering a long position, it could do it if it goes sideways for a bit, but the bigger trend is still bearing down, and that's from here. So there's a lot of work to do, and there isn't much of a technical pattern to suggest going long. And the problem is, it is pushing against some very important support. I mean, I can see why it's stopped here, because that's the prior low. Would I want to step in and buy at that level? It's brave, and it could work on a short-term trend or short-term trade, but will it work further out? Possibly. For people who trade like that, I really take my hat off to them, because I can't do that. I've got to wait. I'd rather wait and buy it at a much higher level, and with the expectation that it's swinging up. But we're all different, and there's all different opportunities there. So for me, it's definitely a wait. I wouldn't want to see it go below this 10 cents level. That is key. That's what I'd be watching for. By the same token, if it manages to hold it, if it's going to go soon. If it manages to hold it in the next couple of weeks, then it's out of the danger zone. We'll see if it can put some distance between that support and the, and that support and the current price. And this could form into a base, but it's nice to look at patterns and say, yes, it could be this or it could be that. But ultimately, I have to wait until they complete before, deciding whether something's a buy or not. So for me, it's definitely a wait at this point.
For some reason, that chart is missing some background. There is a lot further background. If we go here, you see how far back their price goes.
Yeah, I just grabbed the first one. That may be that there's one. Yeah, there's a bit more.
There's a little bit. So it does give you some 10-cent levels here that it's bumping into now in the history before it blasts off. So when Trump won the nomination, some of these ISO coins, the new international standards 20020, those coins took off. And so XRP, Stellar, a number of other ones, HBAR included, it absolutely blasted off to like 35 cents. It's now come back down, and I like this one. What's interesting about Hedera is it's not actually a blockchain. It's a hash graph. It's a different way of doing things, and it's a permissioned blockchain. So what's interesting about a permissioned blockchain is that a permissionless blockchain like Cardano and Solana and ETH doesn't make sense for everything. In some cases, corporations are going to lean towards a permissioned blockchain. And so this Hedera is much more designed for industrial use or corporate use or things like that, for essentially their databases to interact together and be able to access while having the privacy and security like a blockchain. So what I love watching about Hedera, number one, I think at this price, it's a great buy for a blue chip, and it's come back down a lot more than some of the other ISO coins. And remember, in investing, you make your money on the buy. And so now I'm a value buyer, that I research what I think about the team behind it, what I think about its potential. And that's what gives me whether I feel it's underpriced or not. And like Paul said, Paul waits till the chart is turned around, and this chart has not turned around. So of course it's not going to be a buy for Paul, because there's no indication that it's turning around. It's right at the support level, and it may break lower or it may bounce off from here. But when I look at it, I look at, okay, is a $4.5 billion market cap with a 10-cent per token price, is that a good deal in my opinion, or is it overpriced? Is it underpriced? In my opinion, it's underpriced. It's a good deal, and I think it goes a lot higher in a rally to come that I think is going to happen this year. And I think as money supply growth goes crazy, I think altcoins really go crazy this year. That all these people saying there's no altcoin season this year, they're just wrong. And they're not looking at the right numbers to see it. They're just looking at market go down, so therefore it'll never happen on these altcoins. And what goes down does go up. The real thing to be looking at is money supply growth. And with quantitative easing from the Fed, US and China probably going to be stimulating their economies a lot with a lot of money. That's going to cause money supply growth around the world to go crazy. And that's going to fuel a massive altcoin rally. And so a bunch of people are going to miss it. Cool. That happens every single time. I'm not trying to convince people that don't want to listen. I'm just sharing what my opinions are and why I hold those opinions. And those that agree with me, great. And those that don't, well, fine too, because either way, we're all going to see how this does play out. All right. So HBAR gets a buy. With that, DEVVE, we'll put DEVVE in the queue for after we go through one chain, because it also is a permissioned blockchain. And so it's compared to Hedera. And I was reading, one of the things that really has me bullish on Hedera is that a lot of institutions are moving to Hedera or committing to Hedera, which means they're getting this idea of why a permissioned blockchain makes sense for them. even though it's a hash graph rather than a blockchain.
Yeah, it is actually interesting how the market can just sort of ignore news for a long time, and then it all suddenly becomes really important at once. So yeah, it's as far as the price goes, we'll see very very soon, hopefully, that we'll get some reversals of trends. And one train is another one that has been obviously under a lot of pressure. It's been pressing lower. We got this big spike down here on the 6th of October, and since then the market is just held in a range. So that would fit the bill for a kind of final spike and clear out of positions, and then the next phase is usually where everyone is just ignoring it, which is kind of what's happening here. And then the third part is then the market starts to rally and they just still ignore it, even though it rallies a lot, which is kind of what you were describing. And if there's an altcoin rally and there's not much interest around. So sentiment wise, it kind of fits the bill, that we could be close to, a change in trend. But I must stress that for me, despite any good story, the price action is key and it has to actually confirm it. We still have to see it potentially trade much higher to break lows, which obviously won't be part of, but other people will, and that's great for them. But as far as the price action goes, still holding this downward trend line. It's got close to it. This is the most recent downtrend line, and it's tried to break it, which is the first step. So we'll see whether it can. There is a nascent line coming off the low, but that's not really enough to get excited about. It has to see a bit more of an impulse move. An impulse is just a very smooth, sharp move in either direction. So we want to see one of those to the upside to kind of kickstart the new trend. And we haven't got that yet, but through this 8 cents level, I think it would be a very good candidate, especially if it goes quickly, because that's prior support there. It would be resistance, so it'd be great if it can get through. So that would be hurdle number one. That's number one. Number two would be this level here. So if it's playing in this area next week, that would be really good, and we can start talking about a move potentially back towards this 12 cents, maybe even further through this resistance, which was a really good trigger point. I think that we might have discussed at the time, but it didn't quite manage to make it there. Then you can see this trend line and these trend lines bearing down, but they can be broken when the market changes sentiment very quickly. So for me, I can't justify technically buying anything that looks like this. So for me, it's definitely a wait, but I'm sure we're going to be looking at it again, and let's hope it looks a bit better.
Yeah, remember that period of time where gold was taking off and silver was doing nothing yet. And it felt like a long time. That's like, oh yeah, at some point probably some of this momentum will move into silver, but it hadn't. That's what it feels like being in the altcoin market. And it's like slowly, 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 and then suddenly. And it feels like it's going to last forever, that altcoins don't get any love, but the right things are setting up. So these dominoes are going to start falling and blasting off. Now, when exactly, it's hard to tell, but quantitative easing is in full swing. And that's what's going to fuel the altcoin rally. Now, WAN chain have been falling all the way since 2018. And I really like the team behind this project. They are all also are a strategic we have a strategic partnership with them for this channel, and I'm just so cautious on who I agree to do any content from or any kind of strategic relationship. And the only two ones that cross that threshold in the last forever is DEVVE and WAN chain. And so first of all, I have to like them as a project and feel like it's a project that I believe has an amazing future. But secondly, I have to like that they're at a good price, because you make your money on the buy. Now, WAN chain has gotten even juicier during the bear market. And a lot of times this kind of trajectory scares people out because they're like, oh, it just keeps getting cheaper. And it's like, it is amazingly cheap. I mean, the market cap of WAN chain is at just under 14 million, which is incredible. And yet their technology, their bridge, what they have going on with X flows is better than ever before. And they even recently incorporated a burn so that as you use these things on WAN chain, it burns some WAN token. So I feel like the fundamentals behind WAN chain's token are better than ever before. Its use case of being a really good bridge and helping people to seamlessly move money from one chain to the other in a very simplified fashion is working better than ever before. Now, it's like trying to catch attention when nobody's paying attention to altcoins. Well, that's why the price just keeps getting cheaper, is that nobody's paying attention to small cap altcoins right now. And that's why the deals get so good. And so what I've seen in most cyclical markets is the pendulum swings too far each way. So I first followed stocks, then I got into real estate, and I noticed both stocks and real estate, the pendulum swings too far to the upside and then too far to the downside. And it definitely does that in crypto, and it does that in Bitcoin, and especially does that in lower cap altcoins. So WAN chain's incredible buy at these prices. Recently, a couple months ago, I had one of their team members join me to go into what they're doing now. And I love it. They are complete innovators at a market cap that is punishingly low. And I like those kind of buys. So WAN chain gets a buy from me. And let's go to, into the list of ones to look at. Let's take a look at DEVVE, then we'll look at River, and then we'll take a look at NTX.
Yeah. Okay. So DEVVE is still on the wait list, as you can probably guess, judging by the look of the chart. This is something we've been, well, the technicals has kind of looked a bit weak for a while now, but we're back towards this 100% retracement. So if it's going to rally, it better rally soon. That is the key level, and it will see some buyers there. I'm sure. It's just whether it's enough to hold it. But the rate of this decline is not one that I like to step into. There's an expression, don't catch a falling safe. You know, there's lots of market expressions, but sometimes catching a falling safe can get you into market at really good levels. And there are people who trade this sort of thing very short term and do extremely well. So, you know, it's each to his own as to how you approach the markets. But for me, this could be a low, but it needs to be confirmed. At the very least, I'd want some form of break of a trend line just to confirm the rate of decline is slowing. And that would be that from at least this point here, because that's where the acceleration started. And it's, if a market for me is going to change trend, the sharpest either, you know, support line to the upside or resistance line to the downside, that should be the first initial step. If it can't break a very aggressive downward line, then I'm still seeing the rate of decline hold a very fast level. So I can't justify it. It's not moved from that downward phase into at least sideways to break that line to then form a base. So I'd have to say very much it's a wait, but it's pushed right against, you know, this major support, which we have to take into account. So let's hope it has some sort of reaction that it can build from. But for me, I'll have to wait to see how it plays out.
Yeah. So this can be a really scary point to a lot of people, because it's right back down to bear market lows. Now, if you remember way back here, it was going through token vesting from pre-sale investors. And so even though right after launch, it pumped all the way up to over $2, though it doesn't show that here, it then just did this steady decline as pre-sale investors sold into it, pushing it all the way down. Once it hit this, it hit a little bit below 14 cents. It took back off and started to come back up and went all the way almost to $2. And then it started to decline. And so if you look at the pattern on this chart, you see a pattern that I really like to see, and I call this a W. And so you see one loop of the W here, a second one. Now, frequently, the second loop of the W does not go back all the way down to previous lows. But it's there. It's there right now. And sometimes it even breaks below. Yesterday, I was talking about this on Omi is My Homie, and I was showing people that the W pattern every once in a while does a lower low. And a great example of that is Cardano during the bear market before it really blasted off. This is the bear market. Like, there is some price action here. This doesn't show it. Essentially, actually went even more than that in 2017. So it went up like this to like $1.40 and then started this decline. But you can see here a loop. So when you talk about a W pattern, notice that this one went below here. And yet it still came back up, tested, and then it blasted off like this. So as I look at DEVVE, I don't know. I mean, this is an interesting point. We'll see if it breaks lower than this or not. This might be the most incredible buy that we've had since September 2024, or it could get even cheaper. Looking at this, it could get even cheaper, and we'll see which way it goes. Like, I don't know exactly which way to break out. I think there's about a 2/3 chance that it breaks up from here, but a third chance it even goes lower. And either way, because I'm a fundamental investor, I'm looking at DEVVE and what their team is. Now, keep in mind that they are permissioned blockchain that has faster speeds than anything I've seen and lower transaction costs. So I feel like they have really strong potential that hasn't yet caught on in a time where almost nobody's really paying good attention to lower cap altcoins. So this is exactly the type of environment where great buys happen. And this is a better buy than it's been since September of 2024. So I absolutely rate this as a buy. You know, some people, they just can't wrap their mind around buying cheap. That's cool. I mean, Paul, it's not that Paul doesn't have his mind wrapped around it. Paul wants to see this kind of thing happen where it starts breaking to the upside more so he can say, okay, it's in an upward trend, and then buy it. And he'd much rather buy it at a point like 60 cents than 13 cents. And he'll take a ride as it's going up till it shows that it's turning around, and then he'll exit, which is, you know, what his discipline leads him to, and which is an amazing compliment to what I'm sharing with you, because it's very different ways of approaching it. We both like to buy low and sell high. He just buys at a different low point than I do. I'm okay with buying at a point like this. And if it goes lower, that's okay. I can then dollar cost average more even at lower prices. If it breaks up from here, well, great. Then I put in a really good buy at a low point and then get to explore how far up that gets to go. All right, let's see. I think we're on River.
Oh, is it River? Okay.
And there's not tons of price history on River. It's a fairly new coin.
Yeah, sorry, I put NTX because I thought that was the next one. But yeah, so it's River. It's just River, is it? Is that it?
It's trading at $46 right now. So that would be the one.
Yeah, look, I don't know really. I'm guessing there's not a lot of history just by the comment that was made about where it's come from, and it's definitely an outstanding project in the sense that it's moving up very aggressively. I'm not saying it's outstanding in terms of, I've not looked into any of the details of it, so not in terms of what it's doing, because I don't know what it's doing. I don't know anything about it, other than that compared to everything else, which seems to be either going sideways or consolidating or going lower, this is exploding higher. Monero, which we looked at last week, aside, this is in an upward trend. Now, whilst it's in an upward trend, I'm kind of forced to say buy it, whether I like it or not, because that's a discipline of technical analysis. with the volatility that this has been exhibiting, I would be a bit nervous about doing that. I don't know if these two bars here are real, but it doesn't look like it. I'm not sure. I think the main breakout was at $27, and whilst it's above that and the trend is up, then I have to go with it. But the other issue here is that this is kind of swimming against the tide of everything else. So why is it doing this? Also, it's not been around that long either. So that's another level of caution that I'd have to put in there. So I think it will go higher, but this is have to be one that I'd have to just watch it go higher rather than wanting to be jumping on board. If I was in it, I would hold the position because it'd be going the right way. Normally, I would just say it's a buy in that situation, but because of the kind of macro situation elsewhere, I'm just not sure. So for me, I think it's got to be a wait. But I'd have to know a bit more about it, which I know that kind of goes against what I said about technicals. But if it was something that I like the idea of and the trend was moving up, fine. But I think there was a comment about it to say, it's very new coin and we're not sure or something. I don't know. I'd have to look into it and do a bit of due diligence. But definitely the trend is very powerful. And the actual breakout point was around $10. That's where I would have been much more interested in joining the trend. Here, yeah, I mean you can. It's just that these two bars here, I just don't like the volatility. I'm not sure what that was. Was that bad price? Did it really trade there? And I think most likely it's just going to keep squeezing, and then you'll just see a big correction. But I don't know. I think it's probably too illiquid to be governed by lots of players, and it could just be pushed around by a few big positions. Volume is also tailing off a little bit. We can see as it's going up, which can be a bit of a warning sign. So I'll be watching out for that. So if I was long, I'd be moving my stops up to protect it, and then looking elsewhere in the same sector to see if it's a sector thing, like, because obviously privacy coins have been doing extremely well. Is it all the privacy coins? Is this actually going to be? Is this a privacy coin that somebody else is saying that all this should play catch up? I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying, is that the mindset of what's going on? Is it a sector rotation type thing? But beyond that, yeah, look, whoever's got on board this, brilliant, and happy to look at it again. But for the moment, I'd have to say it'd be a wait for me.
Yes, I would. This would definitely not be a buy for me. And a lot of people come in, they're like, "Oh my gosh, this has gone from $1.70 all the way to $45," and they get really excited at that. And there's something to be excited here, and you can see how altcoins can go when the trend hits it. Now, why in the world has this trend hit it? See, that I can't explain, and I don't buy. There's a number of red flags for me. First of all, it's really early in its token vesting cycle. Almost none of most of the market or the tokens are not unlocked yet. So the market cap is this, a fully diluted value is 4.5 billion. So what? Less than 25% of the tokens have even been unlocked. And there's a lot more token vesting to go. Okay. Now, I like to go to the explanation of what it is. So River is building the first chain abstraction stablecoin system that connects assets, liquidity, and yield across ecosystems. Like, what does that mean? Powered by the Omni CDP stablecoin SAT-USD, River allows users to collateralize assets on one chain and mint on another. So maybe a competitor to on-chain here, natively earning, leveraging, and scaling across networks. So the team, it says individuals, Naka, who is the CEO, and it doesn't show his picture. Like, this isn't going to fly for me. Let's see, look at the website. I want to look at who is the team behind it. I can't see. So it looks like they have a bridge. Yeah, this is for fun. River. No, no for me. And sure, maybe it even continues up from here, but like Paul said, the volume is falling off. Even from the last month, it's gone up 15x. Now, when something really gets some attention, you'll see in this kind of market, like 15x can happen fairly quickly. But I'm not chasing to something that just went 15x, even if I understand it. And especially when I don't, like, I don't understand where the real value of River is. So for me, if I had been in this, because, okay, it makes sense, I would be selling to roll into things that are higher. And so if you can lock in a 15x or even a 10x, and you can roll it into things that are at even better prices than they have been in a year, like DEVVE, that's the type of play I make, or buy OMI, or some of the other tokens I really like, or even WAN chain at these prices. So if I can lock a 10 or 15x in and say I buy WAN chain with that, and WAN chain does a 50x from here, well, that's a total of 500x total. If I'd gotten a 10x on the first thing, if I'd gotten a 15x on it and I put it in WAN chain does a 50x, well, that's a 750x gain overall. So for me, it's a sell. All right, NTX. We got Wealth Abundance saying this crypto stuff is becoming challenging. Oh boy. Yes, bear markets, and technically we're in the bull market. Like, the trend is up for Bitcoin, but kind of like when the trend went good for gold, you didn't see it cascade into silver for a long time. But then you did see it cascade into silver, and silver started catching up, and that's like Bitcoin versus the altcoins. So we're still waiting, quote unquote, for silver to take off in the crypto space, and it hasn't yet. But that doesn't mean it's going to. It's not going to. It is going to. All right, NTX.
Yeah. So NTX is below its big support here. So if we look at the prior big support, it's there, and it's got below that, and it's consolidating. So that puts me on watch. Even the fact that it's like still in a downward trend means that I can't jump in because it's still showing weakness. Now, this compression in price is usually an indication that the price is going to continue down. But you see, I put in 2 lines here, and whilst it's between them and it's compressing, we'll wait to see which one of them it breaks. The momentum is with the downside. So if you're looking to buy it at cheaper levels, it's possible that this will get cheaper. But there is a time scale for which this compression goes on for. And if it goes on too long, then the risk kind of reverts from downside to upside. And we're nearly at the level where it's got to break out. So we'd expect to see some form of movement out of this range very soon, within the next couple of weeks. So I would suggest we come back to it and have a look to see what it's done. Has it taken the lows out? Is it continuing down to cheaper levels, or is this an end of trend move, and we're getting some form of recovery that we can then build on? So I wouldn't be looking to buy it unless, at least for me, it gets through this 1 cent area. 1.04 I think would be a reasonable short-term base. So the first step would be it would break this upper line. That would negate the pattern, and then it would just get through this resistance point, which is the highest point on the chart for the consolidation. If we zoom in, so it's the highest point on the chart for the consolidation, which is also kind of matched by this area here, these 2 sort of support points, which would then become resistance. So if we can get through that small base, it gives me the green light for a small buy position, and then we'll see how it runs. So that's how I'd be approaching that from my point of view. But whilst it's in this range, I've got to wait to see which level breaks first. So it's definitely a wait for me.
Yeah, wait for Paul. And I was just doing some research just to catch up on where things are at with NewNet. Now, NewNet is one of the ones that I covered a lot back here when it got really cheap. I had mostly taken profits out of NewNet as it went crazy in the bear market. And so it went crazy when its narrative ran with Render. So Render was going crazy, and NewNet's like basically a competitor to Render. So scrolling down, what I like about CoinMarketCap is it gives us some vital information I want to see. Number one, the vesting schedule has slowed down incredibly as a lot of the tokens are already out there. I like to see that. So there's not as much token pressure coming in that can be sold off. So that's a concern during these early stages way back here where there's so much pressure happening and can often push the price down. Currently, the global computing ecosystem is fragmented and oligopolistic. Large infrastructure providers dominate, and computational resources at the edge of networks are underutilized. NewNet's interoperability framework will enable an efficient distribution of diverse computational processes across a distributed and scalable network of individually owned hardware devices. So essentially, competitor to Render. Perfect. Market cap's at 4 million, which means it's much, much higher risk than Render. When Render tends to run, then probably this will run, and it will probably run a lot more because its market cap is so low. And what does the chart look like? Well, we covered it back here, and I says goodbye. It then went up, and it's come back down a little bit. This is still strongly in the buy zone for me. And I like to buy based on fundamentals, and I'm loving it at its $4 million market cap because it can go a lot higher than that. They've been doing good things. I've been following their team just passively for like 3 years now, and I like their team. They've worked really hard. They've been doing like working to integrate and doing what I want to see in a team. So at a $4 million market cap, it's a great buy in my opinion. All right. Thanks, guys, for the river analysis. Looks scammy anytime fall to dollar again. Exactly. That is the concern. And remember, like, we're not seeing this as much, but it was a wake-up call to me. If you watched yesterday's video on Omi is my homie, well, I was sharing the story that one of my friends, I've been talking with crypto about a year, and he hasn't bought in. And all of a sudden, he like sends me this video that he watched on social media. This guy making the case for U.S. oil coin. And he's like, oh, Trump went into Venezuela for the oil, and BlackRock is talking about how oil is going to be tokenized on the blockchain. And that leads me to U.S. oil coin, and he goes into this, oh, yeah, it's launching on the same chain that the last coin that Trump talked about went 400x up. And so then he's just making it's like, yeah, you mean it launched on Solana like every other meme coin? And US oil coin is just a meme coin. I don't even think it's on CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko because it's just essentially another meme coin, just trying to sound relevant by calling itself US oil coin or something like that. So it seems like it's going to be the US oil related coin. And it's like, yeah, that's a scam. And so I gave my analysis. And it's funny that new people, when crypto goes crazy, you will see them fall for that kind of thing like crazy. They think, oh my gosh, I want to get into crypto. And they will just buy whatever random thing. So I think River has some mechanisms that makes it look good. But like, is it the kind of depth of token that I'm looking for? No, like I like XRP, which is the financial rails of the new of much of the world, like Japan and much of Europe and US, their banking systems are going to run on XRP and XRP nets. I like things that have tangible use. They're going to get real use by real businesses. And sometimes you're guessing, like DEVVE is integrated into all the business of the future yet. No, but it's fast enough and solid enough that it could be, and that's the bet I'm taking. But like US oil coin, no. River, boy, no. Maybe there's some case to be made on why it really has some substance. I'm just not seeing it yet. All right, everyone. I love this show. Paul, you make this show so fun. Thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for your picks. And yeah, Chris, I see what you mean. 100 short silver. Now I got it. Sorry, didn't see that before. Thank you. Take care. Have a great week. See you next week.
All right. We'll see you next Wednesday, where we will have, probably while we're live, the Fed announcement on whether they're going to raise or lowest rates. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. See you next week then. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Paul. All right, guys. It's been a long, hard winter. And you know what? Truthfully, most people have capitulated, and even more are still capitulating. Fundamentally, we're in a really strong position in that money supply growth is starting to go crazy, and you're going to see that bleed into altcoins. If you remember a little while back on the show, specifically the episode with Paul, we were looking at gold's price taking off, and gold's price had gone up considerably, but nothing had happened to silver yet. And so it felt like nothing would happen to silver, but notice it didn't play out that way. That silver got its run, and now silver has gone absolutely ballistic and crazy. That's how it plays out with altcoins. And just because that hasn't happened yet, so many people are taking that to mean that there is no alt season, and they're just wrong. There will be, and it'll be really strong. And those that position themselves well get to benefit from that. And those that lost faith and they sold out and they believed what everyone else was believing, well, they're going to get a very valuable lesson if they're paying close attention and they learn from their mistakes. So either way, it'll be beautiful to be here, because either you get the benefit of the altcoin rally going crazy, or you'll miss it because you sold all your altcoins at lows and bought Bitcoin, because that's what so many people are doing. And you'll get to learn an amazing lesson so that hopefully you never do that kind of thing again. Right now, it's time for our Rainmaker rap. Listen to the words of the song. I wrote this song, a performer from UK. I had him perform it for me and record it. So it'd be fun and also catchy. But the words were specifically designed in here to help people understand how smart investors think, how those 5%ers think, the 5% that make the kind of life-changing wealth that you came here for. So do know, if you're not doing things right, like crypto won't go well for you. And these are the principles that I didn't invent them. I just noticed and observed what the top 5% were doing and how they thought about it, and then started repeating that and doing that myself. And that's what led me to incredible gains, and it will for you too.
To the space, chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, you buy before you could. Was told to buy when it was pouring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I take the one out cause I'm patient like that, and I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't leave with my heart. Principles are simple, to leave in a mark. Buy when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, got parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love, and I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Time is never better, but time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy, but with knowledge the game show. Sticking out this road cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing, and when it's slow will be the target. They say it's come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. Sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. 2 years time the ball will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. They go with the hate, let the haters be crafting. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Made the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough, and that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.